Before the arenas, before the awards.
This is b4Nashville Live. Have a question for our guest?
Send it to us via Messenger.
Here's your host, George Davis.
You know, it's so funny how things happen. My wife and I used to watch this show on TV, and we'd watch it a lot, like every time. And even now, the late night reruns, we still watch the show. And I got this email from a publicist in Nashville and was telling me about this young man. And come to find out, he was a part of that show. I'm not going to tell you anything else about it until we start talking. But this is, I want to introduce you to Jet. This is Jet Jurgensmeyer. Jet, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Hey, man, thanks a lot for coming on. Now, you are, I mean, you're a young guy. How old are you?
I'm 18.
All right. And you have decided to make your mark on Nashville with music. And the new song, which we're going to get into here in just a little bit, is really it's good. I mean, it's and there's not a lot of 18-year-olds out there right now doing country music. Males, you know, there's a lot of young people. So you're in a good world if you're single.
Yes, sir. And I am. So there you go.
All right, ladies, there you go. You heard it.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I'm going to put his phone number up here in a second so you ladies can start texting him. We'll blow his phone up.
My mother's going to kill me.
Hi, Mom. Just remind everybody, you can send comments in, by the way, while we're on here. But ladies, let's be nice and you know, keep them rated G. All right. So you're 18 years old. Where? Tell me a little bit about growing up without telling me about some things growing up, because we're going to talk about that here in a minute.
Yes, sir. So I'm from Nashville. I was born here in Nashville. I always say I was born and raised because I've spent the majority of my life here. Mm-hmm. But raised also when people ask me, so you were raised in Nashville? They do like a double take. Like, I really say I was raised in America or the backseat of a car or on a plane, because we spent the majority of my childhood traveling, because going between Tennessee and Missouri, where my dad's from, which we were talking about before we went on air, and then going out to California, without getting into that, going out to California at a very, very young age, at 5. So I've really kind of grown up in different parts of our country. I've seen the varying different places in our country that, you know, have different beliefs on different things. And it's been very, very interesting growing up in that kind of world. But I am from Nashville. I've grown up here around the entertainment industry. Absolutely. I love this industry. It's all I've ever known.
Yeah. And that's so odd, because not many people that are from Nashville are artists. Most of the artists in Nashville today are from other, you know, the flyover states, as Jason Aldean called them. And yes, I mentioned his name and all the controversy around Jason.
Oh no, everyone's gonna go crazy.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny though, whenever you mention that, I always make the joke, whenever you're from Nashville, you're going to be involved in entertainment in some way, shape, or form. I say that because there's so many jobs that are involved in entertainment that people don't think about. Whether that's a sound guy, an engineer, a lighting tech, it's all entertainment industry. But that is a very good point. There's not very many artists that are from here in Nashville.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, buddy. I said Jason Aldean, and my buddy's like, "Oh man, you said his name."
Oh, I see that one. No man, everyone's gonna go crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna get hate mail over that. But you know, and that's very true. I mean, it's always something: sound, lighting. It could be like I have a cousin in Nashville. He's from Missouri originally, but
nice.
He was a guitar tech for some artists down there. He was
such an important job. That is such an important job. Guitar tech. Oh my goodness.
They're without them, a lot of artists would be lost because you break a string or, your guitar's out of tune at the end of a song. He's the guy that's going to take it over there and he's going to fix it real quick, or something else goes wrong. He's going to take care of it, or he's going to make sure everything's okay from the get go. And sometimes things do happen,
Absolutely.
but
Now, I will say I do know some artists that do not change their strings and do not know how to change their strings. Learn how to change your guitar. I have 3 guitars sitting next to me over here, 3, and I know how to change the strings on all of them, and I do change the strings on all of them. You should know how to change your strings. Now, a guitar tech needs to be there, though, for when you're on stage at the Grand Ole Opry or playing Nissan Stadium here in Nashville, and you should be able to give them your guitar, take a different one, and then have that guitar back in a song.
right.
But if you're just doing a gig, change your strings every 2 or 3 gigs, please.
Or find a
Please.
friend that's a guitar tech, or hire a guitar.
Yes. Yes.
Because you get dead strings, and that's awful. Whenever you've got a dead string on a guitar and you hit it, and it's like,
I have one of my guitars over here. I need to change the strings on because it's getting to that point. Because I just sit around the house playing it enough to where, before you know it, you're like, man, didn't I just change? I guess that was like a week or 2 ago.
yeah, it's like around the studio. I've got 4 guitars. I've got a bass guitar, and I've got 2 acoustics and an electric, and I don't play. And we were talking about my sons earlier, and they play, and so I have them here for when they come see us and stuff. And they all need to be changed. I think this one, it's a Dylan Scott autographed acoustic.
Oh,
Dylan,
wow. That's cool.
I met Dylan right as his career was first taking off, and
That's really cool.
and he sent that to me, and those strings have not been changed since. That's the original strings.
Those are the original strings. Sometimes there are certain guitars that, if they're memorable things that you're not going to be playing at gigs, maybe you should keep the original.
Right.
Someone who's like a grandfather to me, he gave me his first ever guitar, and I have it in the back of my studio here. And it still has the original strings that are 65, 70 years old.
Wow.
Yes. And I'm not going to change them because it's not a guitar that I'm going to go play at a gig. It's going to be a guitar that I'm going to eventually hang up in my studio here and be like, that was a gift. It's funny, though, going around my house here in Nashville, there are so many guitars in this house. I have 3 sitting out. I have 1 over here in the case. I have about 2 or 3 more in the closet, and then I have another one in my bedroom. So actually, there might even be like my first ever guitar underneath the bed in my bedroom as well. So there's a lot of guitars. So I know what you mean about having to try to keep the strings changed and fresh for everybody. You never know when you're going to have a random jam session at your house.
Right. And, like one of them here's, I found it in actually it was in a thrift shop, but it's from 1960. I think I looked it up. I want to say 64.
Oh my goodness.
And I paid $40 for the guitar, and I looked it up, and it's like worth $200.
That's not crazy.
Guitar, but it's a good, it's a good return on investment. So
yes, absolutely. That's really cool. Oh, I see Jason. Jason's talking about my Jesus shirt. Double canceled. I know. And I'm wearing the cross. Oh no.
Yeah, that's my buddy Jason. He's he's a character.
I like him already. He's
actually a pastor.
Really?
Yes.
That makes it so much better that he said double canceled to that.
Yeah.
That is so funny. That is amazing.
He's an awesome guy. He really is. He is so awesome. So growing up in Nashville, it's kind of without saying that you grew up on country music.
Absolutely. I grew up, listening for anybody from George Strait to Loretta Lynn to George Jones, Randy Travis, all of the great Willie Nelson, Merle Haggard, Don Williams, all of like the greats that you look back and you're like, they shaped country music. Right. And, then I started going out to California and I got exposed to a completely different genre, Ed Sheeran, Shawn Mendes. You can even put you can even put like Taylor Swift in that. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, we froze
Okay.
up there for a second. Yeah.
Where did I cut off at?
You were talking about going out to California, who you were listening
Yeah.
to, or kind of who you were.
Going to California and getting exposed to a completely, opposite genre of music. You have
Yeah,
like Ed Sheeran, Shawn Mendes, even put Taylor Swift in that world. Now she could be considered in both because she's done both. But to
right,
go out to California and you hear more pop, more of her songs that are pop, and there's so many different genres that are out there, and
yeah,
jazz, hip hop, pop, so R&B. There's so many different genres out there, and you travel the country, and I've been exposed to so many different things, which I think has been a big influence on my songwriting because I write anything from jazz to pop, country to pop to folk to Americana to indie, whatever. I think it's really opened my eyes to just music rather than focusing myself on one path. I think the worst thing anybody can do is say, "Well, this is how I've always done it." Stay
right.
fluid, stay moving, stay learning. Because if you're an artist, your audience is going to be growing and learning. Therefore, you should be growing and learning. Otherwise, they're going to get bored of hearing the same thing from you.
Absolutely. And to me, that's very well rounded because it talks about, you as an artist, talks to you as an artist, and the fact of, hey, I can take these different genres and I can put them into, if I'm writing a country song, maybe it's a note, or maybe it's a way that they do this riff, or a drum line,
Absolutely. The
so
one of the most fun things I think you can do when you go into a room to write is say, "Man, guys, is it just me? I'm really in a mood to write a, a Johnny Cash song, or nowadays it's a Morgan Wallen style song, or a Zach Bryan, or let's write something like Ed Sheeran," and trying to kind of put your mind in their world for a minute
right.
and write something like that. That is one of the best ways, I believe, to challenge yourself and continue learning and growing as not only a songwriter but a storyteller, because that's what you're doing as a songwriter, is telling a story.
Right, right, absolutely, and I mean, I'm diehard country. I mean, I do listen to other stuff. I'm a lot of the classic rock, Springsteen, Bob Seger.
Oh yeah, of course.
Grew up on the hair band, so there's a little bit of that in there, and it's not uncommon for me to be punching in Hair Nation, or some of that stuff, or
Hey,
anyway.
I like some of those guys you mentioned. A song on my last album is called Crazy Good. I wrote it with a few friends of mine, and we mentioned the boss in there. We mentioned Springsteen and Born to Run because he's somebody else who really just shaped music in general.
Right.
And so I love that when I said the boss, you shook your head because you understood what I was saying.
I knew
That,
exactly what
that
you meant.
exactly.
Yeah, and one of the cool things is that earlier you were talking about listen to Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard and all these guys that the only way they put out their music was on vinyl or tape,
Yes,
you know, uh,
absolutely.
reel to reel tape for some of them. And David, you'll know what a reel to reel is. But the funny thing is, you're 18 years old and you listen to those guys, and a lot of young people your age, they don't have a clue what vinyl is other than something cheap that's on a chair.
Man, that is so true. Vinyl is it's a staple. Um, I want to get a record player for this room to just kind of, it's a more of an aesthetic feel.
Right.
But at my mom's childhood home in Cincinnati, uh, there's still her record player that she grew up with, and she has an abundance of old country records that because she grew up on old country and loves old country. That's what
Mhm.
inspired her to be a songwriter and a musician and move here to Nashville. So I want to go back there. I want to get her record player, bring it home, and along with her vinyls, and go through all of them and listen to the stuff that inspired her.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm big on vinyl. My collection is nowhere near where I'd like for it to be, but it's getting there gradually. And it's got a little bit of everything. I've got like Journey, I've got Johnny Cash, I've got
Oh,
let's see what else. George Jones.
Folsom Prison Blues, a classic.
Yeah.
It's such a good song.
I've got Springsteen. I've got his compilation album, vinyl set. And just no, David, I don't have Tiny Tim. I'm
You
sorry.
should get Tiny Tim. I think I agree with David. You should get Tiny Tim. You should get a Snoop Dogg vinyl in there. I don't know if any of his stuff is on vinyl, but that would be pretty cool if it was. I even want to get one of those now that I mention it. That sounds pretty awesome.
Right. I missed out the other day. Somebody had a couple of Michael Jackson, and one of them was a colored vinyl, and it was Scream and Thriller. And
Oh,
it hadn't even been opened yet, and they were like super cheap. And I was like, man, and I got a hold of them too late. And I was like, oh my gosh.
before we went on air, we were talking about our mics, and
Right.
this is the Shure SM7B. The Thriller album was recorded on this microphone,
Exactly.
which is absurd to me that I'm just going to throw out a date because I don't know how many years ago it was, 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Right.
This microphone was still being used and is still so prominent today. John
Mhm.
Mayer's recorded on this. I record on this mic.
Right.
And it's the same bones. I mean, they can update certain interior parts of it, but it's the same structure. It's the same microphone. It's absolutely absurd.
Right. David does a podcast out in Nashville, and he has SM7Bs, and that's what he uses for his podcast.
Well,
And,
I need to,
yeah.
David, I'm your neighbor. I need to come on the podcast. Come on.
Yeah, there you go, David. Reach out to me. I'll hook you guys up if
Sounds
you haven't
good.
found out about him already. But I mean, it's just so cool to hear a young person who has the knowledge that you have, talking about guitars and restringing and making sure you string them, and talking about microphones and vinyl and everything else. I'm just like, wow.
It's funny you say that. I always make the joke. One of the things that I think I'm fairly good at when I'm on stage is communicating with the crowd, actually entertaining the crowd, talking to the crowd, not just being the person that ends a song, mutes their guitar, tunes, grabs their water, looks at their phone, and then goes into the next song. I talk to the people. And so it's funny that you say that. I always make the joke. I know enough to talk with just about everybody. I
There
know
you go.
enough random crap in my head to be able to talk with somebody about mics, guitars. If you're from Chicago, I'm going to ask you if you're a White Sox or a Cubs fan. If you're a Bears fan, I'm sorry. And
Yeah.
I'm going to talk to you about that. I'm going to make you laugh, and I'm going to try to ask you what songs you want to hear and relate to you. That's the best part about being an entertainer.
So speaking of Chicago, here's the Bears and the Cubs and the White Sox and that. Your mom's from Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
Your dad's from Missouri.
Where in the world do I where do I lean? So mom has been in Nashville long enough. She's a Titans fan. Dad grew up a Chiefs fan and still supports the Chiefs. I am a Titans fan through and through. I will always support my Titans. But I also like players from other teams. I root for like the Chiefs because I also live in Missouri, so I naturally root for the Chiefs as well.
Right.
Now, if it's the Chiefs against the Titans, which we have had,
Right.
I'll be honest with you, I'm gonna be rooting for my Titans. I am gonna root for my Titans there a little bit.
I got to tell you, on any given Sunday, if the Chiefs are playing, you dare not walk into our house with anything but a Chiefs.
That's
Chiefs
okay.
on,
I'll tell you, I've been to a Chiefs game. That was one of the best experiences ever, was going to a Chiefs game. Absolutely crazy how loud it gets in there. Absurd. And then like a great example, the White Sox and the Cubs. I will always be a White Sox fan purely because I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan. I was just at the Cardinals game on Sunday. So before my Missouri family starts freaking out, I have my Cardinal shirt is in my room right now. All right. But the reason I am a White Sox fan is because in 2019, I had the honor of performing at the White Sox stadium.
Okay.
At home plate before one of their games. and they made me and my cousin who was with me, who's playing guitar with me, they made each of us a custom jersey with our name and number on it. And
That's
so
awesome.
I have that in my closet, a Jurgensmeyer with a number 11 in my closet that is a real White Sox jersey. So I will always support the White Sox because of that. But I'm also a St. Louis Cardinals fan.
Yeah.
So I grew
Well,
up being a Cardinals fan. Oh no, it froze. We
because
froze.
I have my American flag up on the front of the house. Oh, there I am. I'm back again.
There we go.
I have my American flag on the front of the house, so my Cardinal flag is down right now.
Oh, okay.
And it's nothing against the Cardinal.
We froze again. Oh no. Wait, is it me that froze or did he
Whenever they
fries?
are we
Oh,
there?
which one? Hello? There we go.
Hello, there we are.
Now we're
Okay.
there.
I don't know what the deal is. It keeps telling me my Wi-Fi connection, but I'm not on Wi-Fi. Why are you telling me it's my Wi-Fi connection?
Interesting.
I'm hardwired. Come on.
You were
StreamYard.
saying your Cardinals flag is down.
Yeah, my Cardinal flag, we took it off for the 4th of July, and then we haven't put it back up. Nothing against the Cardinals, because win, lose, good, bad, ugly, whatever, we root for the Cardinals.
That, of
I mean,
course.
and I may complain about them, and I may be one of those armchair coaches or managers or
Oh yeah.
president
Oh,
of operations.
I have a very interesting tidbit of trivia. I was at the game last year when Albert Pujols hit 699 and his 700th home run.
Wow.
And I have both videos on my phone from both home runs. That was the coolest thing. I mean, that is literally sports history that I
Yeah.
had the privilege of being there and witnessing. That was pretty cool.
That wasn't the last, that wasn't during the last home game, was it?
No, that was at the Dodgers.
Okay,
At the Dodger
703
Stadium.
was the last home game. He hit
Really?
703, I think, at the last home game.
Absolutely absurd. I was there
And
when he joined the 700 club, and that was amazing watching the whole stadium give him a standing ovation.
oh
And
yeah,
they paused the game. They got rid of the pitch clock for that. They paused the
right.
game and let him be honored because that is sports history. And there's what, 5 or 6 people in there now?
Yeah, I think he moved up quite a bit. I think he's like he's in the top 5. So I know
Yeah, and
he was like third.
yeah, there's what, 5 people in the 700 club. So if there's only 5 people in the amount of time that baseball has been around professionally, I I I I might see maybe one other person join that club in my lifetime. Maybe somebody like Aaron Judge is maybe on pace to have a career like that.
Yeah, that's the next person I see to hit that,
Hmm.
depending on how healthy he stays. I think he's been out
Absolutely.
because he's been injured. So,
I think
but
some people suspect young guy for the Pirates. What is it, Tatis Jr.? Something like
yes,
that. Maybe he's
yeah,
kind of young and on track for that. See, I told you, I know enough about enough to be able to have a conversation with you, and that's
exactly.
about where my knowledge ends.
Well, we went to the very last home game of the season when Ollie Marmol come out and Wayno was pitching, Yachty was behind the plate, Albert was at
Uh,
first, and he took them all 3 out at the same time. And I've got pictures of the 3 of them walking off the mound after he
oh,
did. And I don't have I mean, I don't think you can see it over here. I have a whole shelf full of Cardinal stuff.
that's
And
awesome.
I mean, just that in my radios. I collect old classic radios, and so a lot of my
That's cool.
radios are there too. So I have the radios and I have some Cardinal stuff, but I've got probably my desk is about 3 foot tall, and I probably could stack everything up, and it would be about that tall or taller.
That's
Just
absurd. That's
wall
amazing.
paint pictures and plaques and stuff like that. I've got a picture of um, the Bush Stadium 2 when they were tearing it down and putting Bush Stadium 3 up. Or no, yeah, they're putting up the current Bush Stadium next to it.
Oh wow,
And that's
that's neat. David's asking if I got a ball from that game. I didn't. And
Oh,
it's literally until this very moment, I just realized that I should have purchased it, like purchased a ball from that game. I
ridiculous.
should have bought a ball from that. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Okay. I should have bought a ball at that game. I should have, that would have been so cool to have. But I do have quite a few baseballs in my room from various Cardinals games, Dodgers games that I've been to. And also we have a AAA team here in Nashville called the
Uh-huh.
Nashville Sounds. So I
Right.
grew up going to that stadium and running the bases and getting balls there. So I have tons of balls in there signed by former Sounds players.
Now, are they affiliated with Cincinnati?
They are currently affiliated with the Milwaukee
Milwaukee.
Brewers.
Okay.
We were
Okay.
the Oakland A's for a bit. We were the Reds. I think we were the A's most recently, and then we came over to the Brewers.
Okay.
I could be wrong on that, but I know right now we are the Brewers.
We have, in Springfield, they have the AAA team for the Cardinals, the Springfield Cardinals in
I did
Springfield.
not remember that, but that is, yeah, I completely forgot about that.
And then Memphis has the AA team, which is the Memphis Redbirds. And I have not been to a Memphis Redbirds game. Well, I have, but I haven't been in a long time. We've been to two at the Springfield, the Hammonds Stadium, and then
Interesting.
countless at Busch Stadium. I don't think I ever went to Busch 1, but I went to 2 and 3.
That's cool. I think there's a Cardinals player, Tyler O'Neill. I assume you know
Yes,
who that is.
yes, yes.
Is he currently in Memphis playing for the AA team? Because I know he's injured and he's in Memphis doing rehab.
They just put him back on the field tonight. The Cardinals are playing right now against who are they playing right now? They played Miami. They just swept Miami. Oh, they're playing the Cubs. They're playing the Cubs tonight.
Oh,
Yeah, so
neat.
they
And so they put O'Neal.
they've reactivated him for the Cubs game.
That's cool because as of Sunday, he was still in Memphis, I believe.
Yeah.
I became a fan of his about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, purely because he was, just barely taller than me. Because I'm pretty short for my age. I'm only 5'8". But that guy, he's not super tall, but he's
No.
just
Oh, he's
a
ripped.
walking muscle. He's
Yeah.
just huge. And I was like, I want to be like him. I want to look like him. And so I saw him and I was like, I am instantly a fan of him. And then all of a sudden he was injured. And I was like, well, if he could have one season where he has not been injured, please. Just one. That's all I want. I want him to just have a killer season. So I hope he has a good game tonight.
He usually when he's played at St. Louis, he's done really well. His
Mhm.
dad was he's Tyler's Canadian.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that.
yeah, and his dad was a bodybuilder. And so he
That
worked out
explains
with his dad.
it.
Yeah, and so he never was a bodybuilder, but he worked out with his dad growing up.
Well,
And
I mean that yeah, it makes sense.
I've had the pleasure of meeting him. We do every year the Cardinals do their Cardinal Caravan, and I work for a company that owns radio stations, and we are the largest Cardinal affiliate network in the affiliate network. Period.
Wow, that's
We have
pretty cool.
I think 7 stations that are 5 or 7. I can't remember how many because it
Wow.
was one number and then it changed. But we do the Caravan every year, and 3 years ago, it was the first one back after COVID, because they took a year off, and then they came back the next year, and it was that one that they did, that Tyler was with them.
Oh, cool.
So that was really awesome to get to
That's
meet.
neat.
Yeah,
I can
so-
just imagine if you look at like one of Arnold Schwarzenegger's sons.
Oh,
He's got one son that I don't think he does bodybuilding professionally, but he's just.
yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's when you have a shoot. How many times did Arnold win Mr. Olympia? 7 times, something like that. I think it's something crazy like that. And you froze again. Wait, I don't know if it was me.
Yeah, no, that I think it was me. It's showing me it's low again.
Okay.
So frustrating. But I think he won like Mr. Universe. Was it 4 times? Something
I'm
like that.
so curious. I'm gonna look this up now. How many
Yeah.
time? How many times did Arnold win Mr. Olympia? He won it. He won it 7 times. He won
Wow.
Mr. Olympia 7 times.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's unbelievable. I mean, but he's always been so cut and just,
Just huge.
if he says I'll be back, I'm like I'm out the door.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
absolutely. I don't want to make him mad. Even today, if you look at the guy, he's still in
yeah.
great shape. Now,
Yeah.
some of that might be the steroids left over, but
That's
that aside, he still keeps himself in great shape. And I
exactly.
wouldn't want to meet the guy in an alleyway.
Exactly. Oh man, we could sit here and talk baseball and stuff. I mean, I could talk
We
baseball
could.
all night to you. I've had the pleasure of sitting down and having lunch with Tommy Pham, who is he was a Chicago Cub because the
Yeah,
Cardinals traded him, and then um, they traded the Cubs traded him to who was it? Milwaukee. I saw him play the other night against St. Louis. Well, maybe it was a couple of weeks ago, but it was they had just called Tommy up from Memphis, and we had a caravan. We had lunch, and Wainwright was there. Tommy Pham. Um, I think Al Raboski was there.
really.
Yeah, I don't remember who all. That's been several years ago, so I don't remember who all was there.
That's wild.
But that was kind of cool. We were in Paducah,
That is
Kentucky,
cool.
together, and
Paducah, Kentucky. I've driven through there plenty of times.
yep, yeah, and I love it. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm a huge Cardinal fan. I have been since I was a kid, and trying to get chair situated here. Have been since I was a fan. I mean, since I was a kid, and it's just carried over. I will admit, and I will preface it by this: I believe at some point my kid's mom must have had an affair with a postman because my oldest son is a Cubs fan.
What?
Yes.
What?
I don't know how. The
How? How are
we
you
have
from
been to
Missouri and a Cubs fan?
I don't know. I have no idea. He and I went to one game together that was Cardinals and Cubs. And then after he and his wife had their little girl, she was I don't know, she was 2 maybe. And the worst thing in the world he could have done was brought my granddaughter to a ball game and had her in a Rizzo jersey.
Oh,
I'm like, "You son, you just ripped your dad's heart out."
man, I think Rizzo fits in perfectly at the Yankees, but
Yeah.
you can't grow up a Cardinals fan and then be a Cubs fan.
Yeah, and
Like,
I mean, I raised him on the Cardinals, so I don't know how
that's
you became a Cubs fan.
crazy. He's gonna come back to us in like 20 years and be like, "Oh, I'm actually a Cardinals fan. I was just pulling your leg for like 30 years."
Yeah, I'm just joking. I'm just
Yeah,
joking. Like, "Oh, okay. Well, it was a very cruel joke."
it was very mean, and you are no longer my kid.
That's right. The only reason I claim you is because of your daughter.
There
That's
you
it.
go. There you go. You
But for
should
the
tell him
granddaughter,
that one day.
and just in case he doesn't know, he's been out of the will for years. So,
Oh, that's amazing.
so, so you've gone. Let's talk some more about your music because I've got a song here that I'm itching to play and let people hear. But I mean, you've done all this. You've done some stuff, and we'll just say you've done some stuff in Hollywood, and you've done music in Nashville, and you grew up in Nashville, and you traveled to Missouri and all that stuff, and then you got into recording. Was that
Yes, sir.
how? I mean, was that just something you feel like you were born to do? I mean, I know, like you said, being in Nashville, you're going to be in the industry in one way, shape, form, or fashion.
That's a great question. Oh, David's leaving. Bye, David.
Yeah. See you,
But
David.
go have fun editing.
Yeah.
Um, so music kind of came back into my life when I was about 10. It was always in my life. My parents owned a bar in Nashville until I was 8. And
Oh,
then when I was about 10, they bought me a little Taylor and I started playing guitar and singing. And learning songs, performing a little bit more in California. And then I started songwriting when I was about 11 or 12.
Oh, okay.
We started recording the first album. I wrote only one of the songs on the first album. And then after that, I set a goal and I said, I want to write all my stuff from here on out. And that's what I did. So for the last album last year, I wrote every song on that one. For the Falling 2, which my new single that came out last month, I wrote it. Every song is going to be on the next album, which I'm super excited for people to hear and learn more about as we add the playlist of songs that's going to be on there. That's very, very exciting. And I think it is one of those things, like you mentioned, it just felt like it was something that I was supposed to do. It almost felt like, I feel like inevitable is the correct word, because it felt like it was just bound to happen. I was bound to hit that stoplight at some point where it's like, all right, stop. You need to do this. You have to do this. And silly as it sounds, COVID really gave me a chance to focus on music, because with a lot of live action stuff happening prior to COVID and then stopping in an instant, voiceover work is really all that kept going because we could primarily do it from home. It gave me a chance to focus on music. I did an interview right before this, and I was like, you're sitting there and all right, we're doing voiceover work for 2 hours, and I'm in the middle of nowhere, Missouri, with our family farm. So I go and I work on the farm, and I'm spending time with my family. And then it's 6 o'clock, and it's like, all right, well, what am I going to do now for the rest of the day? Twiddle my thumbs, or I'm going to practice guitar and I'm going to write songs, and I'm
There
going
you
to
go.
meet co-writers, and I'm going to meet. I have a co-writer who I'm now almost. I would consider one of my best friends, David Seeger. He and I are playing the Bluebird here in Nashville next month, and I wrote with him 4 or 5 times over COVID. Had only met him once, like 2 years prior, briefly, because I was a listener at his round at the Bluebird.
Okay.
Stayed in touch with him over social media, and then he and I did not see each other in person until he asked me to play at the Bluebird with him in 2021.
Wow.
And it was one of those things. I said to him, I was like, you really took a chance on me because you had never heard me perform live. We've only ever written together over Zoom. We've never had like a one-on-one conversation in person until we're here at the Bluebird. This is absurd. And so that was really kind of the silver lining, because I'm an optimist and I always look at the positive in things. And it really just gave me a chance to focus on music, focus on songwriting, and kind of hone that portion of my craft.
That's so cool because, you know, like you said, 2020 was kind of the year of where people were, the co-writes and stuff like that were all done over Zoom. It was not a good year because I know a lot of artists don't like doing it that way. It's so much more productive to be both in the same room to write a song because of the vibe and the feel and picking up on what each other's putting down kind of thing. And
Absolutely.
it just makes it so much easier. But you've done some writing and you've got a song and you co-wrote this, and I'm looking over some of the stuff on this, and a couple of things popped out to me. Brian Sauerwald, Kyle Winsky, which I know Kyle, I know of
You
him.
do?
Yeah, I know of him. I don't know him. Pearson Swanson, and then you did a little dabbling in production along with Dan Frizzell. Dan, very well known in Nashville for his
Yes,
production,
sir.
and Butch Baker as well.
Yes, sir.
Both of those guys are well known for their production.
Absolutely.
A lot of people, they don't get into that side. They don't know those names, but as much as I engulf myself in that, it's kind of like I keep up with the writers and the producers and all that stuff. And so it's cool to see that you worked with those kind of, people. Not that, you're not good yourself, but to bring those people into your life and into your music just expands it so much more.
Yes, sir. Thank you for saying that. I am very, very blessed and honored to get to work with all of them. It's funny that you mentioned Kyle, Brian, and Pearson. I just saw Kyle and Pearson last night. Kyle was performing at the listening room here in town. So I
Okay.
went out and I was supporting him. And Pearson was there. Pearson got up and did a song that they wrote together. and Kyle played a song that we wrote, which a guy named Kevin Nichols, which is an artist here in Nashville.
I do
Do you
know
know?
Kevin pretty well. Yep.
Okay, so Kevin just recorded a song that Kyle and I wrote with two other friends of ours, and it comes out on the 28th of this month.
Oh, awesome.
So his next single, which comes out in 8 days, called Hollywood, I wrote. So
Wow.
that's
I'll
that.
check that out.
Yes, please do. Um, I absolutely love those three guys. We always get something cool whenever we write together, and writing with them is just so much fun. I've known Kyle for quite a few years now, and he introduced me to Brian and Pearson. I'm so glad that he did. I love all of them. They're some of my best friends. They're awesome. And then Butch and Dan, man, I'm glad that you shouted them out. Butch has known me since before I was even born. He knew my
Wow.
parents. So Butch has known me my whole life. He produced my first album. Then the second album, I was more involved. And now this project, I plan to set a goal for each album. So
Right.
last album's goal was be a writer on all the songs. This one is be more involved in the production and the producing side of it and the mixing. Be there when all the songs are being mixed. So I get to actually spend time with Dan. And Dan told me, he said, a lot of artists don't do that. They're not here for the mixing. And to me, I found that interesting because if I'm a songwriter and I'm telling stories and I want people to believe what I'm telling them, because it is a story that either myself or one of my co-writers is going through or has gone through,
Right.
I should be there for every step of it, know everything that went into making this song. So if I get asked about it, I can tell them because it's a story that I'm trying to sell to you and hope that the listener can relate to.
Right.
So that's what I set with this, and getting to work with them is just, I mean, Butch is a legend in the studio. He's a legendary artist, a legendary producer, and Dan is, in my opinion, the best engineer in town, and I absolutely love getting to work with him. And he's engineered and mixed all of my music, just like Butch has been a part of all of my music.
Right. Well, and the good thing, I mean, to me, if you're an artist and you're setting those kind of goals for yourself, in your mind how you want a particular song to sound. And that's all the way
Absolutely.
down the line. That's from, the instrumentation and the writing of the music and all that stuff. You want to make sure, if you think, in my head, I'm hearing a steel or a keyboard or something in this part. And then,
Absolutely.
you go to the mixing and you're going, well, I'm hearing it, maybe tweaked a little bit here, or maybe take a little bit of the high end off to give a little bit more of a deep tone, but not so much that it's rumble, just gives a little bit different tone, or something like that.
Absolutely. I know
Right.
exactly what you mean. And that's such a good point. Being able going That's why I wanted to be the writer on all of the songs on the last album, was because I wanted to truly be able to get every detail of what I kind of envisioned
Right.
in the song. And because nobody understands the song, I think, better than a songwriter,
Exactly.
because they've been there for the whole thing. They know where the idea started and where it landed. And
Right.
so that was why it was always so important for me to have Butch there, because when I was younger and didn't know how to talk to the musicians to get what I was hoping, I could tell Butch, and since he's been there and been in my shoes, he knew how to talk to them. And
Right.
now Butch is almost there as kind of like a safety blanket for me, because I know that because I know how to talk to musicians, but if there's something that, because I'm still the youngest guy in the room, I'm not going to pretend like I know it all, because I don't.
Right.
I can look over and be like, how do I put this into into words? And he can do it. He can do it like just like that.
And those are the kind of guys. I mean, quite honestly, those are the kind of guys we all need in our lives.
Absolutely. Everybody
Just
needs a Butch Baker.
right. And so you guys all worked on a song called "Falling To," and I was listening to it earlier before we came on, and I'm just like, man, this is. I mean, it's good. I like the writing. Your voice is. It cuts through very well for that song. It sounds
Thank
really
you.
good on the song. So let's take about 2.5 minutes or something like that of a song, and we're going to play that for folks and let them hear it, and just kind of introduce them to Jet, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about another part of your journey. During
Alrighty.
the last few minutes. All right. So
Yes, sir.
this is Jet Jurgensmeyer, and this is Falling 2 on Before Nashville.
If I speak my mind, I'll get caught up in all the detailed lines. Say something wrong even though it feels so right. I'm falling for you. Every day feels like I've got something to prove. Sometimes even a king can be a fool. What can I do? Because you got me tangled up and tongue-tied, baby. You got your hand in mine, making me go crazy. I'm not ready to say it, maybe you don't feel the same, but if you do, then tell me you're falling too. I've been here before, but this time it's something that I can't ignore. Every time you leave me wanting more. And more and more and more. 'Cause you got me tangled up and tongue-tied, baby. You got your hand in mine, making me go crazy. I'm not ready to say it, maybe you don't feel the same, but if you do, tell me you're falling into my arms, late into the night. We can lay on the grass while I'm holding you tight. Falling to because you got me tangled up and tongue-tied, baby. You got your hand in mine, making me go crazy. I'm not ready to say maybe you don't feel the same, but if you do, because you got me tangled up and tongue-tied, baby. You got your hand in mine, making me go crazy. Now I'm ready to say maybe you don't feel the same, but if you do, then tell me you're falling too. Falling too. And tell me you're falling too.
All right, that was Fallen 2 from Jet Jurgensmeyer. Now, I'm going to say this, and I hope you don't get offended, but very reminiscent of early Biebs.
Okay. Hey, I will take it. He gets a lot of streams, so I will take it. Thank you so much. I take that as a compliment. He's a very talented guy.
He is, and I mean, that's just what it put me in the mind of, the youthfulness of the voice and stuff just kind of sounded like some of his early stuff.
Thank you. Also, he's a big Christian now too. So there you go. We got that. He and I got that in common.
There you go. See, he could be your next co-writer.
that would be very interesting. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll pull Ed Sheeran into that right as well. That would be pretty interesting.
Oh yeah, that definitely would be. There was somebody, I can't remember who it was. Who did Ed Sheeran get on stage with recently? Was it Luke
Combs?
Yes. Yes.
Ed Sheeran's talking about how he might get into country music.
That would be interesting.
I'm a big Ed Sheeran fan. I got to meet him a few years ago. He was playing Bridgestone Arena, and I have a lot of friends that say I'm kind of, my vibe in my music is country Ed Sheeran, and I will take it because you know what, that man is very talented, and he plays for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands upon thousands of people every single night. So I will take it.
Yeah, I mean, huge. I mean, when he played with, I think it was the Sea to Sea festival that he and Luke sang together.
It was the ACMs, wasn't it?
Oh, the ACMs. That's right. Yeah, I was thinking
the ACMs. Well,
but,
I mean, he even last year played in Australia. They have a stadium that seats 108,000 people,
Right.
and he played for 108,000 people. You know how
Wow.
many people 108,000 people is?
Yeah.
That's a lot of people. That's a lot
Yeah.
of bodies. And he played for all of them. That's absurd.
That's the size of some cities.
Yes, it is.
That's unbelievable. So let's just talk a little minute about a previous life that you had, because as I said, my wife and I loved watching this TV show.
Yes, sir.
And we were big Tim Allen fans when he did Tool Time, and then when that went off, and then they came back out with Last Man Standing,
Yes,
and
sir.
and I remember the whole thing of Boyd from the time he was born up until about the time the show was taken off the air, which I hated to see it not in production anymore, because I think that's one a lot of people liked. It was very, of course, Tim Allen is just, he's hilarious. The guy is just
Oh, he's awesome.
such a good comedian. What was it like as a young man? I mean, like I said, you were about 5 years old. Um,
So I joined the show season
okay.
7 and 8, uh, and that was what I always tell people. What you see is what you get with Tim. He is
Mhm.
one of the funniest people I've ever met and ever will be. Me, just naturally, not even trying to be the comedian in the room and making jokes of everything. He's just genuinely funny.
Mhm.
And then, he can be entertaining people and then walk backstage and just have the most genuine, heartfelt conversation with you and call you his friend, which is one of the coolest experiences ever, is having Buzz Lightyear call you his friend. That's pretty dang cool. One of the funny stories I always tell is the first day on set. First day, he said something in the Buzz Lightyear voice. He might have even said like to infinity and beyond, something along those lines. Well, the child in me that grew up on Toy Story
Mhm.
lost its mind, and I ran off set. I found my parents. I grabbed them. I was like, "He's Buzz Lightyear," and they started laughing. They were like, "You didn't realize that?" I was like, "I knew it, but it didn't hit me that it was Buzz Lightyear." And so I think it was my first birthday while I was on the show. Tim gave me a Woody and Buzz Lightyear picture signed to me from Tim that says "To Infinity and Beyond,"
Oh,
and that is something that I will have buried with me right here, because that is one of the coolest things I will ever own in my entire life. You can't
right,
buy that. That was
right.
pretty cool, and that
Now,
show was just absolutely amazing.
yeah, how old were you when you got on to the show?
I think I was 13, something like
Okay.
that. I think I was
So
13 when I joined the show.
so you were the older boy. You weren't the one
Yes,
that
sir.
liked the dodgeball thing in the backyard. You want the one that got
No,
hit.
sir. No, sir. I was the troublemaker teenager that, ran away from home and had to have girl problems and experience that sort of stuff, which was kind of interesting because it wasn't like Boyd was a teenager and then the show went off. It was Boyd was a kid and then the show came back and he's a teenager. And
Right.
so it was you're not really able to do much character development based off watching the previous seasons for that. So I kind of had to make that up as I went, which was good because I'm 13. That's the first year in being a teenager. That's the first year in being a teen. So I was experiencing just as much life as Boyd was on the show.
So did Tim ever give you any advice off of the show, like off of the set?
Tim did talk to me. I mentioned this to you before we went on air. My dad and I both got our ham radio license while we were on the show because Tim is a ham radio operator. There's a real ham radio in the office of Mike Baxter's office.
Okay.
That they would have an operator come in and talk to fans of the show before every live taping. And so I would go there and I'd talk to people. And so I fell in love with that. My dad and I both got our license, and that was really neat. Tim's an operator, and so I talked to him about that, and he gave me some advice on that. And I kind of learned from watching him what
Mhm.
it's like to be a boss but not act like it, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Right.
Never once did I hear Tim say, because I said so, or because I'm Tim Allen.
Hmm.
It was never that. If he yelled, it was always to himself. He never yelled at anybody. Literally, he never raised his voice at anybody in all the years I was on the show and worked with him. Only time he would yell is if he would flub a line, and then he would like cuss himself out and like
Right.
yell, which is the most Tim Allen thing ever, which I think is hilarious. He would never yell or cuss at anybody. And it was the most amazing thing of knowing like that's Tim Allen right there. And he always wore the same thing. He wore his glasses, jeans, and a black t-shirt. He never, walked in. He was never flashy unless he drove his 67 Corvette, which is like my dream vehicle. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Other than that, it saw what, you know, money, fame, nothing changed who he was. And his
Right.
wife was one of the sweetest women I've ever met. His kids are amazing. I met his friends who have kids that I'm still friends with this day.
Hmm.
And so I just made a lot of friends on that show.
Did you get to work during that time with Jay Leno at any point? Was he still on the show when you went
I
on?
did. I did actually. So, where my schoolroom was set up, because as a child actor, you have to do a certain amount of school hours on set. Jay had to walk past the schoolroom to get to his dressing room, which was upstairs. And so he had to walk past me, and he would come in every morning that he was on the show. He'd sit on my desk, and I would get to talk to Jay Leno for 20 or 30 minutes every morning. And he would drive
Wow.
a new car every morning. Every single day was a new vehicle.
For 5 years running.
And I'm sitting there, yeah, literally. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I am talking to Jay Leno right now about algebra and about his 1937 car that he just pulled in with that doesn't have a cab. It's just got one seat and the engine's next to him. And it's 12 and a half feet long and like 13 feet wide. It's a massive beast that he just pulled in here. What is this thing? This is a tank. And I'm talking to him, and I got to meet Jay one other time when he was still on the Tonight Show.
Uh-huh.
I was walking past him. I was filming something, and I got a picture with him, and so that was a good conversation starter. One fun fact about Jay: he doesn't eat vegetables. Does not eat vegetables at all.
I did
And
not know that.
so one night on set, they would always do a big dinner before the live tapings. So I think they had Chinese food, and it was so good. Oh, it was amazing. He walked in, they had a bowl of fortune cookies. He took a plate and filled his plate with fortune cookies, and that was his dinner. And so for Christmas that year, I got him one of those giant fortune cookies
Uh-huh.
as a Christmas gift. I got him that, and I also got him a bag of fortune cookies. So I
That's
was like, here's your Christmas gift, and he got a kick out of that.
that's
That was pretty neat getting to see Jay, and Jay is just a genuine person as well. That's
mhm.
why he and Tim get along. He's a genuine person. Never saw him get mad at anybody. Never heard him raise his voice. He was just always happy to be there because that's Jay Leno. He didn't have to be there. We all know Jay Leno did not. He was not hurting for a paycheck from that show.
Yeah.
He was doing it because he loves comedy and he wanted to be there, and you could tell.
And he and Tim, I mean, they both had, I mean, they had things in common like cars. I mean, you can tell they
Oh,
both love cars, and they in some of the episodes and of where, uh, I think it was like the first one where Tim went over to Jay's shop and it's like all spick and span clean.
hmm.
Yeah.
Tim would pull in. He majority of the time he would either drive his Tesla to work or his Dodge Demon. And if you have ever heard a Dodge Demon pull onto a street, it sounds like about 1,000 Taylor Swift fans screaming at the top of their lungs.
Right.
The first time I ever heard it, I thought that there was 1,000 Taylor Swift fans at the gate right by our studio screaming at the top of their lungs. And I run out. I'm like, what was that? And the second AD, he's walking by. He's like, oh man, that was just Tim. That was his demon. I was like, that's what that demon sounds like? Holy cow. So you could always tell when Tim was pulling into work.
Right. That is awesome. Oh my gosh. I've always known, I've always liked Tim Allen. Like I said, even when he was doing Toll Time, and then after it went off, and then we discovered, Last Man Standing, and really liked it. And we liked everything about it, and I think it's funny because, being from Missouri, if have you been to Springfield?
I have.
And you've probably checked out Bass Pro Shops.
Of course, I was just at the Memphis Bass Pro Shop
Are you?
Tuesday.
Oh, the pyramid.
The Pyramid. I was just at the Pyramid Tuesday.
Love that. But if you look at the store when they show the front of it, it's Bass Pro Shops.
It is very similar. It is
It
very
is,
similar.
and so that was always my thought was, wow, they put a part of Missouri in this show because they've got Bass Pro. It looks so much like the Bass Pro Shop in Springfield.
It does. And that
Then-
Springfield Bass Pro Shop, for all my Bass Pro Shop friends out there that have not been to that one, holy cow. That is like 5 Bass Pro Shops put together. It is huge.
amazing. Yes, it is so huge. They have the Wildlife Museum, and my son, who I was telling you was a police officer, we were going out there. I think we were my wife and I were going on a trip out there. We were going to see all the grandkids or something, but we met them at Bass Pro Shop, and my son's like, "Dad, bring your weapon. We're going to go shooting." And I'm like, "Where are we going to shoot at?" He goes, "Downstairs at Bass Pro Shop. They have an indoor shooting range." And
They
so
do.
we shot for a while, and it's pretty cool. I thought,
I've
wow.
never got to shoot there. I would love to. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, we went down, and it's got like maybe seven lanes. It's not huge.
That's awesome.
But we were down there, just shooting our sidearms is all we were shooting.
That's so cool.
So we were just having a blast, and it's just so much fun, and I love the fact that you've got connections to Missouri. That's just awesome, because we were talking about the other connections that you have to the state, and
Yes, sir.
people to start Googling and figuring out where you're at. Next thing you know, they're swamping the front of the house or anything. But if you need protection, I know a guy that knows some guys that could take care of that. So just let me know.
Well, that's good to know. That is very good to know. Thank you.
Absolutely. So are you completed with the album right now? Or wait, before we get into that, because we didn't even get into the other thing that you did for acting, and that was the voiceover stuff, because you were you did some stuff on Disney's TOTS.
Yes, sir. So I've not just done Last Man Standing. I've done a lot of movies and TV shows and stuff over the years, and I don't want to get into all that because I would take another 2 hours to talk about it all. But I've done a lot of voiceover work as well for Disney and Nickelodeon and Netflix and Amazon. Anything from TOTS to Disney Junior to Bubble Guppies on Nick Jr., Shimmer and Shine on Nick Jr. I did an animated movie called Ferdinand, which was with John Cena and Anthony Anderson and Peyton Manning. So I got to be on that. That was so fun. And I've done a lot of voiceover work. I love voiceover work. And actually, we were talking earlier about COVID and doing voiceover. Pretty much all of season 2 of my Disney Junior show, TOTS, was recorded from home.
Wow.
Because of COVID.
Wow. That is awesome.
Yes, sir.
And that is the glory of technology. It's not so much you're doing a podcast and it keeps telling you your Wi-Fi is dropping out and you're not even on Wi-Fi. It's it's being able to do stuff from home. I've interviewed artists from Canada, and I've interviewed artists from Florida and all over the U.S., and I've never left my studio.
It's amazing. Technology is wild.
Yeah, I love it, and that's just so cool. And the voiceover stuff I love. I haven't really got into it, but I actually, when I built the studio, I built a voiceover booth on one side of it. So I have like
that's cool
4x8 booth, and they in voiceover they tell you everything has to be so quiet. Your noise floor has to be a certain level. And my wife, whenever I first got this done and completed and got the sound treatment up inside, which the only real sound treatment I did other than putting up some what looks like boards, it's carpeting um,
Okay.
on the walls in the booth, but then I put up the foam up on the top,
Yes,
the
sir.
foam. So the whole ceiling has that on it. So there's no sound bouncing in there whatsoever.
That's
And
amazing.
she goes in there and she's like, "This hurts my ears. It's too quiet."
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean too.
Yeah. And I've used it a few times. I used it in some of my early podcasts before I got all this massive conglomeration of memorabilia and equipment out here. So it's just, and I love voiceover work. I've done like commercial voiceover. That's all I've done, just for commercials. Haven't really done a couple of video narrations for friends, things like
Yeah.
that. Um, but one
Voiceover
of the
work is fun. I love it.
is I mean, I love doing like the narration stuff. I really like doing. You can put your emotions, you can put your feeling. You have the thing
Absolutely.
about it. You have to be able to um, interpret a script or a book or whatever you're doing. You have to be able to interpret that, whether it's a commercial, radio commercial script or a TV show or anything like that, because you got to put inflection. You got to be able to act the part. You have to act by yourself. Basically, you're not acting.
Absolutely. I know
um,
exactly what you mean.
but the whole idea of that I love. And now what I was going to move over to was you've talked about the album. How far are you with it right now?
We have a good handful of songs that are recorded. We have about a handful more that we want to go in and record. So it'll definitely be a few more months until we kind of tease when that will be coming out. I don't have a date picked out yet.
Mhm.
But I'm constantly writing. I'm writing just about every day. Obviously sometimes it's not for me because I have a song I wrote that comes out on the 28th that I didn't record. But I am always writing and always trying to improve and always looking for the next song that is right for me. And so
Right,
I'm just constantly trying to beat the other songs, if that makes sense. Oh, I
right,
think this one beats that one, so let's pull this one out and pitch this one instead. That sort of thing.
right, right. Kind of improving on the one you have, and you're saying, okay, this
Exactly.
is better, so I want to go with it. Um,
Exactly.
and when you do that, do you take that song that you pulled off and put it to the side and go, okay, I want that song to be on the next album, but it's got to meet my standards, so I'm going to tweak it just a little bit.
Sometimes, or even if we demo it, we'll pitch it to other artists that are
Right,
looking to cut. So a lot of times we do that. That's what happens with majority of the songs that I write. Because if you think about it, my last album had 13 songs. I
right.
write 13 songs in about a week and a half. So if you think that in comparison to 52 weeks in a year, there's a large amount of songs that I'm writing and a very small amount that are just for me. So majority of
Right.
the songs I write are getting pitched, and that's only you'll hear a lot of songwriters say that about every fifth song you write is one that's actually worth pitching because the other four are typically garbage or
Right.
take you about four other co-writes to actually get it to a reasonable state. But that's just how it works sometimes. Sometimes you feel like the juices are flowing, sometimes you don't.
Right. And it's amazing because some artists will say, with a song that they put out, and they'll say, well, this song just kind of fell into place. It took me 30 minutes to write it, 45 minutes to write it.
Absolutely.
And then I've had artists that say, this song, I started off with this and kind of tucked it back. And a year and a half later, I came back and worked on it. And it took us about 3 days to get it complete because in that time that I didn't work on it, I was able to, go back and maybe listen to a voice memo or, you put down a melody or something like that. And you go back, you listen to it and you go, okay, this is more what I want. So you take that into the right. You say, this is written a year ago, but this is what I want to do.
You're totally right. You can always, always improve your songs. Always, no matter how long it's been.
Right. So, what I mean, where are you looking to go from here? What is
Uh,
your
con-
fi-
Continuing to do what I'm doing, keep performing. Next month I start college here in Nashville, so it's really going to give me a chance to focus on my music.
Belmont?
Focus on, yes, sir. Going to
Okay.
Belmont. Going to be working on music. Going to be writing a lot, performing a lot, and just still doing auditions and still going out for things for acting. That hasn't stopped. But I'm really just I'm kind of letting the Lord take me wherever He sees fit right now, and
Yeah.
that's brought me to here. And I'm glad that I did this. We covered a lot of topics.
Yeah. Yeah, we have everything from sports to songs to TV and everything in between. And I will tell you this, or ask you this: when you go to Belmont, are you going to take any guitar classes?
I don't think so. I might though. I don't. I know my first semester I'm not.
Okay. If you do, my cousin that I told you was a guitar tech, he's also
Hmm.
an active professor of guitar at Belmont.
That's good to know.
So
You'll have to email us his name because I'll probably run into him.
yes, oh yeah, yeah. He just finished up writing a book talking about guitar and tone and stuff like that, like with
That's
amps,
cool.
how to get all this, and that's what he's using for his textbook. And I think he's got
Wow.
it finished. Um, but he's done that, and then he did for oh shoot. There's another music college, and I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but he's done it for another one. I can usually recall it pretty quick, but I can't remember. It'll come to me just any minute. But he's done that's what he did during COVID, and he taught remotely. Um,
Gotcha. Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, you'll have to email my publicist his name so that way I can run into him.
yeah, I'll pass that along to Taylor and let her know, and I'll also pass David's information. David is in Nashville,
Okay,
and
that's good to know.
I
He's
I
still
believe
editing, I bet.
yeah, he's either I'm trying to think if he's in like Columbia or I mean he's close or
Gotcha.
right outside of Nashville. And he does all his right in his home, so you'll get to go in and sit down at his table and
Amazing. Can't
and
wait.
he usually has long conversations, like 3.5 hours.
Hey, I'm all right with that. I'm okay with doing those long ones when they're in person.
He's a great guy though. So I'll connect you with him. But man, thanks a lot for coming on and just
Thank you
hanging
so much
out.
for having me.
It's
I'm
been a
glad I
blast.
could do it. This was fun. It
Yeah,
was a blast talking to you. We talked about a lot of stuff and we have a lot in common. I made a Cardinals friend.
right. And a fellow Missourian.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Well,
Thank you
Jeff,
so much.
we're gonna stay in touch. I'll get a hold of Taylor and I'll send her some information. Next time you guys are out at the farm and you're at the lake, let me know. I know I'm gonna have to go back out there sometime before the summer's out, and then next year
Alrighty.
it looks like I may be out there several times. So
Alrighty.
I'm
I will
excited.
let you know. And make that connection with David. I would love to go
Yeah,
do his podcast.
absolutely. I will get Taylor's info to him as well. So my friend, you take care. It's been great to
Thank you
meet you
so
and talk
much.
to you. And we'll talk again soon, hopefully, and find out more
Great to
about
meet
the
you.
you too.
Yes, sir. God bless you. Have a great night.
You too. Everybody, we're going to be back on Monday night. You be sure to join us, and we'll see you then. So take care.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to follow Before Nashville on all social media and listen wherever you get your podcast. Tune in again for another country star of tomorrow on Before Nashville with George Davis. I'm Kevin Casey on behalf of Worldwide Pants. Have a great night.